Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to the SuperCoach traps of 2021. You don't want to have these guys, in my opinion. Each year I do the must-haves and that is always followed by the traps. So they're normally pretty popular. People love to see the must-haves and I've often had egg on my face when I put guys out as traps and maybe they deliver. But I think it's easy to sort of say that a few guys will be bad selections and that type of thing. I like to go with a few guys that are on pretty reasonable ownership. You know, clearly a lot of people have them in their team, but I reckon they're a no-go. So I've got four guys here, and some is pretty well known that I think are traps, and others, you know, maybe it's news to you. But we're going to start with, you know, it's in no particular order, but on this occasion, this guy is clearly my biggest trap for SuperCoach 2021. And I'm a massive fan of him, and I hope he has a great career. But in pure SuperCoach terms, Matty Rowell is a no-go this year. I know we love him. I know he's a social media phenomenon. You know, we are all about him, and he's super popular among everybody. But strip that all back, take all the emotion and the fact we love the bloke out of it. He's like 500k. He's played a handful of games. And everything went for him last year. It was a beautiful run. He was fully fit. He burst onto the scene. He was kicking goals with his left foot from 50. It was a perfect start. But that's going to change. You know, he's in 48% of sides. And at that price, we need him to basically be a keeper. I mean, don't tell me you're picking him to make a little bit of coin, you know, because if he's making coin, then he's a keeper, if you know what I mean. Like, at that price range, there isn't too much scope. He's not a guy that you're just picking to boost the dollars up. You need to keep him for a long time. Hasn't had a full pre-season. He just didn't look as good as he had previously in the Pracky game. I'm still expecting him an amazing average. For a second-year player, it'll be an amazing average, I'm sure. But, you know, if you want a prediction, I'm feeling like it's high 90s, maybe early 100s. We'll just have to see. But I wouldn't be shocked if he averages in the high 90s, which, you know, maybe a lot of people who have him in the team are anticipating closer to 105. But it's a big no for me. Teams are going to do a lot more homework on him. He could cop a tag, you know, and just own pressure, you know, his own pressure on himself, outside expectation. I think last year was just a fairy tale start. And to recap it, honestly, I'd be shocked. But we'll have to wait and see. Next up is Orazio Fantasia. 20% of sides, that blows my mind. I've got no idea. His body is flimsy as he's in a position that historically is hot and cold. And I know he's pretty cheap, but come on, we've got like good and better mid-price options above him, below him, you know, not too far from his price range at all. If his body holds up, fantastic. I'm sure he'll have a day where he kicks 5 and scores 140, but he'll also have a day where he scores 50 and he has you pulling your hair out. Now, you know, people might just be hoping he's, you know, flying, starts the season well, makes him some quick coin. All right, maybe roll the dice on that one, but it's just not for me. You know, I think there's better options that'll do far more for your SuperCoach side. I've got Josh Dunkley as a trap. Now, I sort of ummed and ahed about this one. He's in 35% of teams, and I'm a massive Dunkley fan. This is the thing. I started with him the year, was it last year? Was it last year? He started with a 65 and then back-to-back 130s or something like that. I was a massive fan. But the fact is, I think a lot of people would have been nervous when Beveridge said what he said on the radio about him not being, you know, in amazing nick, you know, positions up for grabs, blah, blah, blah. And then when he produced, what was it, like 10 tackles, great numbers for the doggies in the Pracky game, seemingly everyone else has jumped back on board. Now, let's not forget how hot for spots the Dogs midfield is. And let's not forget that Treloar wasn't even playing. And, you know, why does Dunkley seem to be the first one that gets turfed to a flank? You know, I think he's one of the best inside mids if he gets that opportunity. So let's just wait and see. He could average 115 for the first 6 rounds. But it just makes me nervous the way Luke Beveridge goes about it. How just, for any random reason, he can just sort of go, you know, for the team's sake, to win this game, you're going to be the second ruck, or we're going to use you deep forward. You know, we've seen him do it with a number of players, and it has screwed us over on quite a few occasions. So, again, I've got to sort of put an asterisk and say, this is not to say Dunkley's a bad selection. and I think you'll need him in your team at some point. But to start with the guy, it's not for me, because I wouldn't be shocked if we see some ebbs and flows in his, some peaks and troughs in his game, maybe more significantly than some other types in the forward line. For me, it's clearly Dangerfield and Martin to start you with in the forward line. And just finally, this fella's in 13% of teams, but just wanted to give a bit of a mention. Jeremy Howe. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Do people think that they see that 120 and they go, holy shit, he's 517, that amazing run he had at the start of last year? But I'd be shocked if he gets anywhere near that. If he averaged 3 figures, it's a good year. I anticipate an average in the 90s. He's not an accumulator. He needs to be at his absolute intercepting best, which he was last year. But you're basically saying, will Jeremy Howe have a career best season? It's a big call. It's a tough call. How he returns from the injury, we'll just have to wait and see, because it hasn't been flawless this pre-season, So I think there's a lot of risk. He's not a guy that's been a year-on, year-out premium. We've seen him average well, and then not so well, and then good. He's been around that 90 mark and variations of it. So we'll have to wait and see. But they are my traps. And while we're on it, Jeremy Cameron, speaking of it, Jeremy, why the hell's he in 10% of sides? Blows my mind. But anyway, they are the traps for 2021. So in my opinion, they shouldn't be in your starting squad. But there'll be people out there that have 3, or maybe all 4. If you've got all 4 of them, let me know. I'd be really interested to see. But yeah, they all have their own individual reasons, and I don't think you should start them. So let me know what you reckon. Hopefully you've stuck around to the end of the video, because I forgot to plug my live session at the start of it. But I am going live Wednesday night. So I think this will probably be scheduled on Tuesday. So Wednesday, the day before we kick things off. So if you've got any questions, you can throw them my way. Cheers.